Well, hey, friend, welcome back to Grace Filled Grit. We have a great topic that we are chatting about today. Have you ever compared your life and purpose with the others around you? If you are in the online space at all with Pinterest homes, yummy recipes, or watching influencers take all those amazing trips, it's hard not to compare your situation to others. Do you ever feel like your friends and family are making more of an impact on the world than you are? This episode is about finding your own unique path and purpose and stepping out of that comparison. My friend Ciara Laine Myers, author of Glasses Off, is joining us today. And if you've been around a while, you know that nothing is off limits. So let's go there. Welcome, Ciara. I'm so thrilled to have you join us for this hot topic today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that intro. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. So, I would love for you to introduce yourself to our friends here online and tell them a little bit about your background, your platform, and what you're doing.
I am a writer, I'm a mama, I'm a wife, a business owner. We have a family business and dog mama. And yeah.
All right. All right. Well, we are so thrilled to have you here. And we are chatting about getting rid of comparison and finding our own true calling and purpose. I would love for you to share a little bit about the comparison game and how you overcame your own challenges, apprehensions, and doubts while seeking your true calling.
I think for me, I was more so comparing myself to myself and feeling really stuck and like, I don't know, it was just a terrible, isolating time of just feeling like such an imposter. And I don't remember who said it or where I heard it. I wish I could, but one time I learned that it was normal to have imposter syndrome and that if you didn't have it, it was an indication of poor mental health because if you're going into something new or scary, in my case, it was a new industry, then of course you're going to feel like an imposter because you technically kind of are because you've not been doing that thing. And so you can just sort of welcome it. Hey, welcome imposter syndrome. It means I'm a healthy, functioning adult, and I'm just going to sit with it and move through it. So that's kind of the journey I've been on with that.
That's so good. And it's so, I think there are about a million areas every single day that we can feel that imposter syndrome in. I mean, I know as an author, I'm on my third book talking about, number 4 and 5 here. And I still will say, well, those real authors that are out there, or, with food photography, I'll say that, just because I take pictures with my iPhone, I feel like I'm not a real photographer, but yet I really am. And so that I'm so glad that you bring that up because I just think that that is something that we all deal with it in so many different areas. So many different areas. So you mentioned that God has a unique vision for each individual. How can our listeners tap into this vision and understand their specific calling?
Well, God really gave me a revelation. So this was not something that I prayed for one day and then all of a sudden, poof, he answered. It was years of just feeling like I had this tension between, okay, here's my reality. These are my conditions for my day, but there's something that God is calling me toward, pulling me toward, but he is not revealing what exactly it is, as he usually never does, right?
Mhm.
And once I realized, okay, I need to stop reading the Bible to discover God's will because he's not going to answer me like a big sky genie.
Mhm.
I need to just read the word of God to discover who he is. And so every day I would just have my DDG, is what I call it, my daily date with God. And I would just say, okay, let's say the Lord is real. Let's say he's meeting me here. And every day I just kept doing that. And eventually, years and years go by, as I got to know his character, he started to trust me and reveal more things to me as far as what we can be doing on earth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. And I love that you have that daily date with God, because I think so many times, I mean, I've caught myself in saying, I just wish I had a whiteboard or a chalkboard for you just to write, which which of these paths am I supposed to go down? Where is it? But the more that we push into him, he reveals it. So I love, okay, so tell me practically your daily date with God. I love that phrase. I love that practice. Tell me what practically that looks like. Like, what time of day is that? How long? What do you do?
I think that practically speaking, you have to change it up because you can't just do the same thing every day. It needs to be fresh, just like you would date your spouse or your friend. You're not going to, you may have your habits in like a certain couch or a certain pen or whatever, but sometimes I'm in the shower, I'm listening to worship music, I'm praising God there. Sometimes I'm in the car in deep prayer. It just looks different every day. Sometimes I do light a candle, have a tea, journal for, 30 minutes. It's a whole thing. But as long as I just make sure I let God influence me first and not influencers in the world or not, my parents or my husband or my children, as long as it's him, at some point in the day, I'm able to drown out all the noise and all the other
Mhm.
voices in the world.
That is so good and so important too. And I do think having that time every day is critical. And I think it's the key to, in my opinion, it's the key to to having the sanity and having your head on straight and drowning out all the noises, because in this online space, and we always have a phone in our hand and we're always checking this or checking that, it's easy to get off track and to have our own motivations. And I love that you have that daily date with God. That's just genius, really. So you have a visual diagram, and of course we're on a podcast, and visuals are hard on a podcast, but it's important. So I don't want to breeze over it. I'd love for you to share with our friends here about your purpose, calling, vision diagram. So if you can explain it, and how can this diagram aid individuals in clarifying their life's direction if they're not sure what they're supposed to be doing?
Okay, this is my favorite thing. So I was drowning in those words. They're very popular, they're very cultural. Purpose, calling, and vision, they're such lofty concepts. And I just felt like, am I the only one who missed the memo? Everyone showed up at the party wearing black and white suit and tie, and I'm in like a yellow polka dotted dress. I didn't hear from the Lord. And so I really set out on a mission to just research everything about those words through dictionaries, through the Bible, cultural, and I condensed it all in this new book, and specifically in chapter 2. If your listeners buy it, that is the chapter that you can actually read the text and it will make more sense. But I can try. So I just felt like the Lord gave me a triangle, and at the top of the triangle, he put God, and out of God flows Jesus at one point of the triangle down at the bottom, and the Holy Spirit on the other side. And that parallels the triangle with these three popular terms: purpose, calling, and vision. Purpose being at the top, which would be the why, the reason why we play the game, which obviously is to love the Lord and share and witness to others about him. And then so out of that day-to-day purpose, calling and vision will flow only if we meet with the Lord, and that's our purpose for that day. The calling, if we're going with the sports analogy, it's the space on earth where we play the game. So it's the where to our why. Whether for you, that's, this cookbook. And to be honest, when I heard one of your podcasts about you saying, how you think of recipes in your head, and I'm like, no, like I'm the perfect person to buy this cookbook, because I like, no, I don't. I need you to tell me exactly how much to put when I'm making it. Anyway, that's so awesome for you. So, so then that space, whether it's like a classroom or a stage or an arena or whatever it is for you. That's the where to the why. And then if you move from purpose and calling and you go to vision, I just believe that's the Lord giving us the playbook. He's helping us figure out how to do it.
Mhm. That is so good. That is so good. And I think it's so important. And, I'm sure men feel this all the time. So it's not just women, but I know at my stage in life, I'm, a little bit older than you. And a lot of my friends, their kiddos are either in high school and now driving. So they don't have all the sports that they have to take them to practices, or a lot of them are even in college and moving out of the house. And so we have this like, okay, wow, my purpose was this other thing, and my family, and especially for my friends that were stay-at-home moms. And then all of a sudden they're in this, okay, what am I here on this planet for? And I know God has a purpose for me. And so I think that's so important. And I would encourage any of you that are listening today that, are in that place. And I know a lot of them, I felt it when my final child went to kindergarten. And then I was like, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do now? That was kind of like my whole life from morning till night. And that was what I did. And God just beautifully shifts things. And so I encourage people to get, your book and get into that chapter, definitely, for sure. So we're on a roll now. So let's keep going with this. You have some practical steps to help us embrace and fulfill God's vision. So give us a brief overview of what these steps are for our listeners on the vision side of things.
Sure. So I call this 7-step system the vision journey. And basically, the first one is to recognize the vision. There's a lot more in the book, but if your listeners want something sort of quick, they can list out all of their, whether it's they feel like it's from the Lord or it's their own thoughts or dreams or ideas, make a list. And to the right of those ideas, every single one, rate a sense of urgency that they feel from 1 to 10, 10 being the most urgent. I feel like if it's in alignment with your calling and it's a 10, and you know that the Lord's presence is inside of, and you know that you can show someone God's love through that idea or dream, I believe that that's a really good way to recognize a vision from him, because there's that sense of urgency that isn't in other ideas and dreams that we have, because we all talk about things we'd like to start or do or whatever. And it seems like the ones we actually pursue feel so urgent. And so I think that's an interesting way to recognize that it might be from the Lord. The second step is to confirm that the vision is from God. And then the third step is to involve others. The fourth step is to dream and design. That's the sort of Mary Poppins stage. And then the fifth is to plan and put in the work. That's sort of the Will Smith and the Pursuit of Happiness stage. And then the sixth step is to update the plan. And the seventh is to pursue the vision until God decides it's over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so good. And so speak a minute to those that, I've had this happen in my life a couple of times where I thought I was on the right path. In my head, it was the right path, and doors were shut or things didn't go how I thought they were. And at the time, you know, I was just discouraged and mad at God. And how did you not work this out? And I have so much energy in this, and I thought you were in this. And now, many, many, many years later, I see his plan and his timing, and it's never quick like I like it. So maybe speak a little bit to someone that is in the middle of that, in a couple of steps there. At least they're thinking they're on the path, and something changes or pivots, and he shuts a door, or I don't know what. what do you suggest at that point for someone that is just really, I mean, I'll be honest, I've been ticked at God. Like, why, I thought I was on your plan. What happened here? Am I not hearing you? I'm in my Bible every day. What's going on here? Um, and like I said, years later, you see exactly what he was doing, but in the moment, you're ticked off, or at least I am. That I'm showing my character flaws today.
Oh, totally. And you just feel so alone in that. And so I would just say pay attention to that, because there are some people who do not feel that way. They're like, "No, I'm good." So my book is probably not for them. My
Hmm.
book is for
Hmm.
someone who's like, "I know I'm called for more. I just can't quite figure out my steps." Um there's just, I think God is so close to the brokenhearted, and I think that that's your opportunity for growth. You can stay there and wallow, which is so natural and what I did for years. And it wasn't like I was trying to be disobedient or weak or something, but it's just so hard to know the will of God sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, but we know from First Thessalonians 5, I forgot the verse, but he says that his will is to rejoice always and pray continuously and give thanks in all circumstances. So we know that larger will there. But as far as finding our specific reasons, I would say one thing God told me, I wrote about it in chapter 12. He woke me up early in the morning and just kept saying, "It's not about you, it's about providing value." And for me, that was impactful because I can be quite shy and I can like to just sort of write and hide in a cave. And he knows that about me. And he's saying, "Hey, get out of your own way. Let me take care of it. You need to write these things so that the amazing thing is not that you will write this book. The amazing thing is what readers will do when they read it and they go and change the world and all these different parts of it." And that's so exciting. So I guess to your listeners, I would say the same thing. Which of those ideas has the opportunity to provide someone else, even if it's one person, to provide them with something beneficial? Because there are things that you can do, maybe just one spiritual gift you have that other people don't, and they need it. Just like I need your cookbook, you know?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I would say if it's going to provide value to someone else, you don't think it's like, "Oh, I'm being egoic or something." No, just get out of your way and help someone and they'll benefit. And I think that's a good way to serve the Lord
Hmm.
when
Yeah,
you're
I
stuck.
love I love that. I love that. And I do find, sometimes, at least with me, it's like I have this agenda and I'm in the word and I'm praying and I'm thinking I'm in alignment. But it's almost like God is the extra. He's the here's my plan. And please, Lord, bless it and make it happen, instead of making him. I was listening to another podcast, and I'm trying to remember who it was, but they had mentioned they were an entrepreneur and they were starting their business, and they had mentioned how they truly they were a solo entrepreneur by themselves, and they were going to make God as their business partner. So instead of, always stressing and doing what I've been doing, like, okay, here's the plan, God, please bless it and make it happen and help me not have any roadblocks. And, I think this is your vision for what we're supposed to be doing. Truly spending that time, like you were talking about earlier, the daily date with God, spending that time up front as if he is your business partner, in whatever it is, or maybe he's your co-parent at the time if you're a single mom and you have kids, or whatever it is. But truly, he's the first one to go to, instead of us making all these plans and then just asking him to bless it on the back end. And I don't know if you've ever been like that, but I've been really bad about that. So that's kind of my new take on that. So we all can use momentum, and you talk a lot about that. And I'm a firm believer in the advantages of when you have some movement going. A lot of times that's God, and He can open doors, He can shut doors, He can open doors that no one else can for you, and put things in your place, and give you connections like nobody's business. That's what He does. And so tell us and describe a little bit about your momentum formula and how it can help us push that forward when things are they just seem too hard for us. I mean, no one likes hard, but sometimes that's God's plan for us, is to push through. And so, talk a little bit about your momentum theories.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I was just thinking life is so hard.
It
I feel
is.
like 80% of success in life is just showing up for it,
Yes.
because consistency is really hard to do. And obviously that's a made up statistic, right? But I kind of was like, okay, most of the things God asks of me are hard. Like, yes, I have this amazing life and we are close and I have a wonderful relationship with the Lord and my family and I have all these blessings, but specific times that I felt like things were from Him, they were usually difficult. And like, if I'm going to finish this, then I need to have momentum. And so I just looked up the scientific definition because it's been a while. And momentum equals force plus strength plus speed. And so I just thought I need to make up, in the pivotal moments of life, I need to hold on to my own momentum formula from a scriptural, spiritual standpoint. So I kind of said that pressure would be like the force. So momentum equals pressure. And you can either crumble under the weight of that pressure or you can allow it to make you stronger. And then self-discipline was my strength. So momentum equals pressure plus self-discipline, which is, I don't know, I wrote in the book that a lot of us clap for the beautiful naturals and that like trying hard isn't that cool, but that I don't care about being cool. I'd rather be consistent, and that I would rather build skills than just be really naturally good at it. And that is hard, but you do build more confidence when you keep doing something over and over and over again. You build that self-discipline in you. So, and then the last part of the formula. So in the science one, it's speed, but in mine, it's God's timing or God's sovereignty. So you can have all the pressure in the world, have all the skills, and still it's got to be in the Lord's timing. So that was kind of my formula.
Yeah, that's very insightful. And when you're talking about the pressure, He does, he likes to add pressure to us, doesn't He? And it's always hard. But when if we say the word of God, if we believe the Bible and we have a Christian worldview, all these stories, no one had it easy. I mean, if you look at, Daniel in the lion's den, he was in it. He wasn't, God did not keep him from going in it. He was down in the middle of it and He saved him, but he was in it. I mean, that had to be terrifying. You think of like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were in the fire. He didn't keep them from going in the fire. They were in there. So that pressure piece, I mean, it kind of stinks that's that's how He works sometimes for us. I know in my life, I had a health scare and a brain tumor and all that. And that's how He works, is that pressure shows the beauty on the back end. And, you go all through the Bible and how many times over and over and over and over, like a million times, He says, so they will know that I am the Lord. So they will know that I am God. And He uses that pressure over and over again to show His glory and to show us His path. So I love your analogy there. I think that momentum concept is so good. So, what advice would you give to someone who feels stuck or unsure about their life's direction and purpose? And I tell you what, you start thinking that you know the path you're on, and something pivots or something changes. So, what advice would you give to someone that feels stuck right now and just doesn't know what it is?
I would just, well, for me, I can't speak for everyone else, but what I said as far as kind of get out of your way. It's not you, it's about providing value. Another thing the Lord told me that I thought was really beautiful was, what did he say? He said, and obviously this is not audible, but he impressed on me, every day you're anxious, yet every day you're taken care of.
Mm,
And I just thought that was something I could hold on to, write on my whiteboard,
yeah.
tell my 10-year-old. And just know that you're not alone, and that if you use this time to meet with him instead of, I love personality tests. I love all the things. I'm married to a counselor. I get it. But if you use this time to build your relationship with the Lord instead of trying to grow in self-analysis, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a really helpful thing. Another thing that helped me was I just woke up one day and was like, oh, this is not life or death. Like, I'm not a neurosurgeon.
Mm-hmm.
If someone reads my book and they don't like that adjective, they're not going to fall over dead.
Right.
So it helps you to just kind of get out of your own way and gives you permission then to keep pursuing what the Lord has for you.
Mm-hmm. That is so good. So tell us a little bit about your book. You have this beautiful, and we're online, so you can't see me holding it up here unless you're watching on YouTube. I love the cover of your book. It's called Glasses Off. It is out. It's already out, right? You've published and had your launch date already. So tell our friends a little bit about the book and where they can get it.
So the title of the book totally inspired the whole thing. Do you want to hear the story about that?
Yes, yeah, do tell.
Okay, it's kind of funny. So I was creating content for brands and for my blog, and then working on our little counseling practice in our area that we have, a little family business. And I had my two kiddos at home, and I just kept feeling like the Lord was asking me to stop the digital stuff. And I mean, as someone in this space, like if you stop, it's
Right,
kind of over
right.
if you don't show up pretty consistently. And I stopped for a year. And so I lost all my audience. I lost, any sort of licensing deal. I was working with other brands and stuff. And I wasn't actually at peace like I thought I would be, because I felt like it was such an irrational decision. I felt like I had just thrown the future of my business away. I was so confused, and I was kind of angry praying one day.
Mm-hmm. I've done that.
And I'm like griping, God totally interrupted me and gave me the book title.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was cool. It was a little different. There was a working title, but it was Glasses Off: How to See God When Your Vision Was Blurred. That's what I felt.
Mm, yeah.
And I wasn't a writer, so I thought he wanted me to buy a book on Amazon with that title. So I typed it in and nothing came up. And all these books were coming up about optometry. So I thought the Lord was going to blur my vision literally. So I'm like, I'm going to go blind. I'm researching all these books, and I don't know who I thought I was, but I thought I was Paul or somebody who's going to take my physical eyesight away. I don't know. And so because God was gracious, he's like, no, sweet child, it's a spiritual metaphor. So I need you to write a book with that title. So fast forward about a year, I am in a writing competition, and they ask us to summarize the book with one word. And my husband's better with concise language. And so I asked him, like, hey, babe, what do you think this book is about that I'm writing? And he just quickly said, it's about having vision. Vision is the word. And that was the aha moment. I'm like, okay. So I scrapped like 24,000 words and started again writing the book I needed to read because I was so inspired to help someone that was in my position. Like, you've called me to a brand new industry. I have no credentials. I have no degree in this space. I'm really just going on faith. I feel a little cuckoo. I don't know what I'm doing, and I need your help. And so it's just super meta. He helped me write it, and now I'm on the other side, and it's so nice to be able to pass it on.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's such a good book, and I think it'll be very, very helpful to others. So, one last question for you on the comparison game. How how do you suggest those of us that, so now you're back in the online game, and you're online and you have to be for promoting your book and business and all the things. It's a different world than it was for like our parents' age, that they didn't have all of this. It is a part of life. Even if we like cancel out our social media for a while, we're still online. We're still everything, with the phone in our hand constantly. How do you suggest, or what would you say to someone that struggles with comparison and looking at others, especially if they're going down a new path like you did, and you're kind of moving into a new industry, and you have this imposter syndrome? You feel like maybe you don't belong, or you don't have the right degrees or the right experience or whatever. How do you suggest people really deal with that comparison game if they're struggling with it?
I think that's kind of a healthy mindset to have. Now, I think it can be crippling if you allow that comparison to take over your life and you don't go out in public and you have severe anxiety. And I've been there, not really the comparison with others, but just not feeling like I was living up to my potential. And it was so daunting. And I mean, I would say there's no one better at being you than you. So comparison really is apples to oranges, because the amount of things that are in one of our brains is astounding, and it will never be a fair game. I would say that you have to spend the time figuring out who you are when you're in the Lord's presence and gaining that confidence. Consistency helps. Just showing up even when you don't feel like it helps. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned nobody is, God made you very specific, and your talents and qualities are going to be different than anyone else's. And you might be stepping in, one of our listeners might be stepping into a new industry or a new phase of life, and you're different than every person. I know for me, I don't really fit in a box. I don't fit in the farm, homesteader. I have a lot of faith on my platforms, and I don't fit the normal box. And sometimes that's okay. If that is the path that God has you on, you don't have to look like anyone else. You can be a little different, and you don't need to mold yourself to the norms, because he created you very special. So, okay. Well, I am so glad you're here today. I love your book. Tell our friends here online, what is your favorite place to hang out? What's your favorite social media right now?
I love them all. Well, I have a love-hate relationship with them. I like,
We all do, yes.
but you can find the book on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, walmart.com, and Apple Books. And then my social media is my pen name, Ciara Laine Myers.
Okay. And Instagram, Facebook, all the
Instagram,
places?
Facebook, Pinterest. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, and we will add all of that to the show notes. Thank you for coming on today. This has just been such good information that I think so many of us struggle with, and very timely. So I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you. It's such an honor.